celebrating 15 years of Young Turks.
Hello and welcome to this special edition of Young Turks. We come to you from the heart of the capital, Connaught Place. We are a co-working space and an accelerator called Innovate, and we are doing a curtain raiser to Budget 2017. So let's take a quick look at what we have lined up on the show today. Venkatesh Sarvasity, head of Microsoft India's Innovation Center and 7 early stage startups, share with us what they want from Budget 2017. This is also a curtain raiser to techportal.com's Pitch Off Season 4, a startup event that will be held in Jaipur on February 18th and 19th. The first big deal of 2017 is here. Avishkar IntelliCAD Group raises an equity round of $25 million. Vineet Rai talks to us about the roadmap ahead and the expectations from Budget 2017. So Venkatesh, I'm going to start by talking with you. As someone who's been working closely, not just with one of the biggest MNC companies based out of India, but also various government policy platforms as well as networks, angel networks in India such as the IN and so on. What would be your expectation from the budget? And I ask this in the context of us having completed a year of the Startup India Action Plan.
From an ecosystem standpoint, I think, it's just started. We need a lot of momentum in terms of expectations. Coming to maybe if I put short in three concrete, expectations I have from startup ecosystem. I would certainly look at the tax holiday. From 3 years, can that be increased to 5 years or maybe 7 years? That would be really boosting the ecosystem, because you're seeing India is still in the initial stage of the startup ecosystem, and I know it will take time for things to mature. That would be one of the important things. And second is also looking at the long-term benefits. I'm looking at an investor invested in a startup ecosystem which are not listed. So the long-term tax capital gains, if that can be looked at from 2 years to 1 year, reducing that from 2 years to 1 year, that will really boost the sentiments from investors' point of view. The third thing is on employee stock option. The startups are, it would be a request if they can maybe look at it charging at a sale at a later stage, so that startups have enough liquidity and they can handle the situations well. So these are the concrete 3 steps. The other important thing I also want to focus on is, if you look at the pyramid structure, the bottom of the pyramid where you have the universities and colleges where a lot of incubation can happen, that needs to be strengthened. So 2016, the President of India has launched this national startup student policy. How can we strengthen that with much more benefits? Creating more incubation or co-working spaces in the ecosystem can really help.
All right. So let's start by doing some experience sharing. How many of y'all tried to apply to be a registered startup, given that a lot of y'all were applicable to make that in the first place, and what were your experiences?
Honestly, I found it very complicated, and considering we had just started, I had way too many things to handle, then to go and sit and go for all the compliances. I thought to give it a miss for the time being. So I really feel that it's very nice that we have these support from government for startups coming up, but I think that if it's made a little more simpler and easier for us to just go ahead with it, I'm sure more and more people are going to apply for it.
Amit, you work closely with a lot of startups as a sort of consultancy. That's what Ideate does. Can you share with us what challenges have been and how you've been able to kind of help startup founders navigate that?
I think the innovation factor, where taxation and everything comes into place, that's kind of messed up, because a Flipkart in Assam or a Meghalaya would still be an innovation, because that market is still coming up, right? Rather than doing a macro level thing, let's probably do a micro. What fintech startups would need, what are the policies which they would need. It's just, we can't just do an hackathon and say that job done.
Outside of the IITs and the 3-4 other top tier engineering colleges, what is being done, what can be done in terms of policies to actually nurture or build up that culture of entrepreneurship and innovation?
I won't say nothing has been done in this space. There are few states I can certainly think of. Kerala is one, wherein they were the first movers in this space. They started something called Startup Village.
Correct.
They started giving importance to the startup projects started by students and also relating back to the curriculum and giving credits. Then from there, it moved on to Gujarat. Gujarat Technical University today, if you look into the university curriculum and all, they have emphasis on entrepreneurship and there are credits associated with that. Think of a solution like this. India has so many engineering colleges and they have infrastructure also. Look at some private institutions which have beautiful infrastructure, net connectivity and everything. Why don't we turn some of them into co-working spaces?
Correct.
So that we can bring down the cost. For example, today if you look into any one of the co-working spaces, it costs roughly around 10 to 12,000 per seat. How can we bring it down from a 12,000 to a 5,000 or a 4,000 benchmark?
So what you're actually saying, and it's interesting because we're also sitting in a in a co-working stroke accelerator space. Do we need more of this? Do we need that once you become a part of, say, a certified co-working space, that there is also some seed fund that gets associated with it? What are some of your asks at that level?
Government has allotted, I don't know the exact figure, I think it's more than 2,000 crore to the startup incubators or accelerators in India.
Okay.
So I think there, and since you also mentioned that the people who are working in the co-working space or accelerators, so they should see that the initial amount of money, that is seed capital, has to be put down from the co-working space itself. I have personally seen that in Bangalore, that the people come in, they've been there for 6 months, they make a product and they move out, for the investment. So they move out to the outer world and then they struggle again for the next 6 months to raise an investment. So I think this can really solve a problem if the co-working space, they only give the money at the initial level. So
Okay.
I think this can really solve some problem.
Okay.
Once you develop the product, your product is not your startup. You need to build a selling point across that.
Right.
You need to understand how you sell it, and anything you don't able to sell is a trash. And that's how some amazing products which engineering colleges build and students build, and that I come
Yeah.
across. So they don't have that business expertise around those. How do you create a product which is sellable as well? And there might be a very amazing tech around it, and there will be different use cases that could be brought out of that same tech, and then it could be developed in the whole business sense.
Correct.
So that's where the engineering college, if that business expertise can be plugged in, and that's what the accelerator kind of help with. How do you take this tech product to actually a product that could last and that could survive?
So Venkatesh, I'm going to come to you on this point. So I think essentially what everyone is trying to say is that, perhaps if the accelerators, stroke incubators, even if they are at the college level or independent of the college, if they can provide some amount of helping hand as far as negotiating policy is concerned, as well as some sort of seed capital to get things going, and also support either on the policy side or on the building out the business or a B plan side, where the talk of the entrepreneur in residence came in.
If you look into today the IITs, even if I look into the top tier institutions where government is funding a lot of money, or there are opportunities for things which are at a little matured stage, look at the new IITs and the old ones. If you put across, almost every state has an IIT at a close proximity. From a technical perspective, can these be the hubs at least to start with? At least the first step could be, can these be the hubs wherein this particular IIT is associated or mapped to this particular state, so that
maybe
there's a technical
and it's
expertise.
mapped to 20-30 other engineering
Absolutely,
colleges.
in the nearby colleges, and then you have the pool which is created there. Second, look at this, an interesting point what he brought out is engineering students have these technical skills to build great products or working on new technologies, whether it's machine learning or if you look into the cloud computing side. Look at IIMs which are closely related to that particular state or situated in that, and map things, because most of the engineers in India also get on to the journey of MBA. So imagine if a startup, a tech person is working on an interesting concept on artificial intelligence and he doesn't know where to sell, how to sell, and the ideas required to market it. If an IIM Calcutta or an IIM Ahmedabad or even a new IIM which is in that state can really help him coach a basic mentoring in terms of doing that, that would be at least to kickstart that. It's a practically possible solution, I can see.
All right.
What we are discussing right now is how do you grow entrepreneur from a college side. Fine, you have grown and government has come up with the startup policy, you have done a whole lot of stuff. But when it comes to selling, government is one of the biggest buyers, right? But I don't know how many startups are ever able to sell to government, right? We need to work with a lot of government agencies, government in all the states. You go back and look at the tenders. I believe that none of the startups can ever fall into
because
that
you
category.
need a certain amount in your bank balance, you need certain
that's about it.
credit, you need to be certified.
You're just out of that. I just cannot make a solution which I sell to the government, and unless I do back to the governments, I can't run my startups, right? Because we are working on the electronic health records, and this has to fall through the government. So even if the government is putting a push with the startups policy, but it's not going to the other side of the table, it doesn't make a sense for the startups.
Another point that you had brought up, Venkatesh, earlier was around ESOPs. Want to share your experiences on what the policy asks as far as ESOPs would be concerned from the finance minister and the budget?
Whenever a founder or the ESOPs, people are taking a secondary exit, right? Secondary sale, right? The tax slab on that money is huge, right? So just like around 2 quarters back, like we were in the process of selling out our major equity, right? But then we backed out because we understood that the money that's going to come in our pockets after giving to the government is very less, right? And eventually then we turned down that offer, right? So and we are a small team, just 11 people, but all of them have some certain ESOPs, right? And everyone is working towards the company. So I think those are the points that has to be considered in this kind of budget, where the tax slab on the secondary exit, right, has to be kind of strengthened, or kind of if you'll see that the major companies, right, in every budget they get a bailout for the loans, right? So startups should also get a bailout, right? Always.
Alright, so let's just do one concluding round of comments. Something that's related to the sector that you operate in, and something that you would like to see happen.
I think the first thing and the most important part which I would personally want to see is a micro approach, right? For the last year or so, we are talking about numbers, right? 10,000 crores coming out, there is a policy here, there is a policy there is hackathons happening and all that. We are not talking about the micro level implementation for all these things.
I will add to one policy part. So recently government announced 2% discount on post demonetization on cashless transaction. So we do help a lot of SMEs and SMBs to go online, start their own digital dukaan. So many SMEs and SMBs come to us. Boss, where is 2% discount? How to avail that discount? So government has created a policy, it's good policy, but there is no close integration with the startups. API should be open that we can pass on that information to the government, and vice versa.
There are a lot of places where there are clauses for women entrepreneurs. Honestly, I
announced last year actually 500 crore fund for women entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs that came from an SC/ST background as a special impetus. We don't know what has happened to that, if that fund has been actualized or not. But yeah, go ahead.
Honestly, I hear this whole word women entrepreneur a lot of time. I don't see any benefit of it. Not like I'm looking for any benefit, because when I walk in anywhere, I don't want to be differentiated on the basis of my gender, because I go with the same passion and same confidence. But I feel that when you are vouching for something, there should be some way out. Like, there should be some vision for us, so that we know what's happening.
In agreement to everyone what they said, I think one of the ecosystems that actually never gets highlighted, right, it's Israel and Tel Aviv University. What we have to do, just like what Israel and Tel Aviv did, is emphasis on research, right? And then we can actually use the products that have been researched in the government sectors. Because if you see the Israel government, they are actually empowering the students and the researchers in the university to actually create the solutions for the problem that the entire world is having, right? So I think kind of that emphasis on university level for research and development will actually help a lot.
How would you like to summarize this conversation we've had today?
I think from a budget standpoint, we all discussed taxation, and the slabs is something where they can really empower the startups to the next level. Execution, 2016 we started, we really need that execution, and that execution should not be 10-year goal, that execution should be immediate. Third thing should be, there should be some special emphasis on certain sectors, for example, social impact sectors, startups in education, healthcare, which are the base necessity.
So on that note, we are going to wrap up this conversation with startups. But on the other side of the break, we are going to get an investor's point of view on what he is expecting from the Finance Minister and Budget 2017.
Celebrating 15 years of Young Turks.